Hello, my name is Brian Chicago. This is my screencast assignment. My main academic and professional interest lies in technical writing, so I will go through the process of how I composed a technical manual. Here is a completed technical manual I wrote for a professional writing class. It went through multiple revisions to reach its current state. When I first started writing this document, I had to identify the topic and the audience. This is a key thing to understand when writing any documentation. In this case, my topic was the Sony e-reader and explaining to the audience how they can use the device. The audience would be any new users who weren't familiar with the technology and would like to understand how to use it. It begins with the summary statement. The summary statement is an introduction to the purpose of the manual. In this case, it states that the reason for the manual is to explain how to use the Sony e-reader to read, in this case, ebooks. The next part lists the precautions. These might seem like obvious things, but when dealing with the new users, all the points have to be considered, such as keeping the device charged, keeping it away from water, all very basic things, but very important to state. The next part is tools. Now, the tools themselves are listed and also defined. This is important because the audience may not understand what they actually stand for. This way it describes a little bit, such as charging cable, charging the batteries, e-reader slipcase, holds the e-reader. It adds a little bit of extra information, which is important to any new users who aren't familiar with the functionality of the device. This next part is called the Tats, and is like a table of contents for the manual. It briefly lists each section of the manual and tries to explain how these sections are divided up. They ultimately go tie back to the purpose of the manual, such as how to operate the device, how to use the e-reader to read digital books, and how to purchase digital books. This first part, how to operate the device, is kind of the beginning part, and it just basically describes how to use the device. When I wrote these different sections, I had to make certain that a specific tone was conveyed that made it engaging for the reader. Often manuals can sometimes feel like they don't actively engage the reader, and they can feel disconnected, or it doesn't feel like it had any purpose to using the device. What helped with this is I actually had practical experience with using the Sony e-reader myself, and so I could translate that into the manual writing and add enough information to make it detailed, but at the same time make it succinct and to the point. I also did not add steps in the traditional sense of 1, 2, 3. I made it bullet points, and the reason I did this was it helps to make the audience feel less pressured. Sometimes when you see steps, the audience might feel like they have to fill each step perfectly and do everything in that sense. In this way, the audience can focus on just seeing how to use the device and understanding what the device does, and not feel pressured in that way. After I completed the main body of the manual and did all those steps, the ending part came to the troubleshooting techniques, and these were the things that like the precautions, attempted to address things that might seem obvious but were important to anyone who is new to using the device, and anything that can help them communicate with the company, any problems they might have in the future. Here is a picture of the device. It shows that the device is fairly simple when you actually see it, but describing in words is different, and you have to translate the physical appearance and translate that into words to make it clear. Sometimes there can be a disconnect, and it was important when I was writing the manual to make sure that everything came from practical experience and that each of my steps could actually be translated into the context of using the device. And so it would have that important, usefulness to the reader. When I wrote this manual, I learned I really enjoy technical writing. It helps clarify meaning and helps to engage the reader in the context of the of the of the work they are reading, and it engages them and makes them feel involved. And you can use technology as a platform for engaging the audience in whatever you need to convey. That is it for this screencast. Thank you for listening.